Mobile means a lot of different things to a lot of different industries. For utilities, mobile is what counts. Mobile is what connects. And when done right, mobile unleashes the true power of asset management. Whether you're taking stock, inspecting critical components, repairing vital assets, or powering entire cities, no one does mobility better than Interlock. Delivering award-winning mobility without compromise. Inside IBM Maximo. In real time. Seamlessly. Online or offline. Wherever your work may take you, Interlock delivers optimal mobility, productivity, and ROI with our suite of asset management solutions. As the experts in Maximo Mobility, we guarantee your success. And with our extensive asset management and utilities expertise, Interlock's mobile Informer apps adapt to your existing business processes. What does delivering mobility without compromise mean to your bottom line? Usability, scalability, reliability, productivity. Get the max out of Maximo with Interlock Mobile Solutions.
It happens to all of us. You meet someone new, and eventually they ask, "So what do you do?" I'm never quite sure how to answer that. Do I say I work in consulting? That's too vague. That I'm a Maximo certified deployment professional? That's just overly technical. What I'd like to say is I work for OnTrax, where we help our customers implement their asset management strategies. We are the North American #1 reseller of IBM Maximo, and we've won awards for our work. Then, there are my coworkers. See, they all bring unique talents and experiences to the table, and together, we bring out the best in each other. We believe in honesty and integrity, and that a project is only complete when a customer sees value, not just when contractual obligations are met. I'm proud to say that I work for OnTrax, the world's only IBM Platinum business partner, exclusively focused on Maximo. How can we help you today?
With that, though, I'm going to move over to our next presentation, and I have the pleasure of introducing Stephen Cook. Stephen's a CanMUG steering committee member. I had him up on our slide earlier, a longtime attendee of meetings and a big proponent of sharing information with the Maximo community. He's delivered some fantastic presentations in the past on some other cool things that Vancouver Airport's been doing. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Stephen, and we're going to go through your presentation.
Thanks, Craig. Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Cook. I'm from the IT department for the Vancouver Airport, and we're going to talk today about some work we've done to get our airside work into actual Maximo work orders. So, for those of you who are still waking up or not short attention span, here's the too long didn't read. We needed to improve life for some of the people in the airport, in the airside operations. They were looking for some new functionality and some improved recordings of things that they were doing already, but needed to track that they were doing it better. This was spread over kind of a long time. For various reasons, but mostly it was done this year and the latter part of this year. Who's been involved? The IT department, hugely airside operations, and shameless plug here, people at OnTrax have helped us with the particularly tricky parts. That's who's been doing it. And how have we done it? There's a lot of automation scripts and stuff, simplified screens made for the people, like personalized not to a person level, but to a group level. That's the quick summary. So those of you who are falling asleep, you can go now. What is YVR? Weird collection of letters. That's the code for the Vancouver Airport, just like Calgary's YYC and Toronto is YYZ. This is an oldish picture. That's our old control tower in the kind of middle right side, and the new tower, which is in the background on the left. I say new, but I think it was built to 95, 96, so I guess it's not as new as I'm thinking. Who is YVR? So there's the company, Vancouver Airport Authority. It has a few hundred employees, a bit less than we had, a while ago. And then there's the other workers who work on the island doing airport, and there's thousands of those people. Airline workers, customs people, catering, ground handlers. And I only point that out because a lot of times people think, oh, thousands of people work for the airport. Actually, it's only a few hundred. Thousands of people do work at the airport, but they're not part of YVR. And then we've got our fabulous green coat volunteers, our little green army. There's about 400 of them, and they're sprinkled around and they help people find their way and stuff. However, they're on hold right now because of COVID, and it is largely, our volunteer group is largely older people. I'm sure that's why they're on hold. So we'll be looking very much forward to getting them back. You're not here to hear about the airport, so let's carry on. Ops wanted to make some improvements in their airside activities, and so we decided, let's inflict Maximo on them, because why not? So airside work orders were not kept in Maximo. I think some of them were in Excel sheets, some of them were in SharePoint sites, maybe some on Post-it notes, or some just, guy gets radioed that something needs fixing and he just goes and does it. They wanted to get a better record of those things. We do have some airside workers who've been using Maximo for quite a while, our airside safety officers, but they couldn't do it from their truck. They had to go into their office in order to log into Desktop Maximo and do their stuff. So that's very unhelpful for someone who's out on the field for 10 hours, having to make notes and then go into the office and remember stuff and go update Maximo. And then, not related to Maximo, but part of this airside improvement work was getting the responsibilities assigned to the right people. And so we did have our airside safety officers seem to be getting assigned a bunch of things out there just because they were out there, and actually maybe they didn't have particular involvement in that thing. So not related to Maximo, but some of that stuff was reassigned to people who are better suited for that work. So, a cautionary tale. So we started this for airside, and we had those goals set out. And then we started to discuss other things, and we said, well, sometimes there's an investigation needed into something that happened. We're gonna, look at how to use investigations. In fact, we were looking at the HSE investigations part. So then it's like, well, internal audit does investigations, we should include them. And health and safety does audits, so we should include them. And our safety group does audits. And so we were including people. And then we would hit another subject area we would decide to add in, and it's like, oh, hey, baggage does that kind of thing. Well, let's include them. The group size grew quite large from its origins, and correspondingly, the requirements grew. It just grew to a size where we weren't making particular progress. There's just too many things to be considered before we could move on from decision 1 to decision 2. There was so many things to be considered and trying to get agreement on. At some point, the steering committee, met and discussed it and said, look, we have to put a halt to this because we're not making any progress by having everyone involved. That ended that aspect of that work. And so I'm just saying, as a cautionary tale, just, we think we should include everyone, and we did. And maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. Well, I guess you could say it wasn't the right thing to do, at least in this case. Anyway, just a little heads up that everything doesn't turn out the way it was originally planned. The steering committee put it into the big project, but they said, look, there is some stuff here we still have things that have to get done. So we returned to the roots. So we focused on only the improvements for airside. So that brought the focus back to the original intent. As I said, we reviewed who was doing what and making sure people were assigned the right work. Again, not necessarily a Maximo thing. We created a new NOTAMs process. NOTAMs is an airline term. It's notice to airmen. And yes, it's airmen. I guess they haven't caught up with modern times. Whenever there's something that the airport needs to tell the aviation world, like there's a construction crane here or a runway's closed for this or whatever, then it goes out in a NOTAM, which was being done by printing and faxing to NAV Canada. And now we've introduced it as a new process, and they can do it from their trucks. And it's a spin-off of SRs. That was done, and that was just about a year ago. And I think it's safe to say it's working really well. We need to update our airside inspection tracking. As I said, we do a lot of inspections. We have to. We just had to make our tracking of that inspections more granular. So we've done that. There's garbage. Of course, it's airline. So in the airline world, we call it FOD, which is foreign object debris. We need a way to track that this stuff is happening and it's getting picked up. So we created a very easy way for people to report that. Obviously, it's always being picked up, but we didn't have an easy way to report it. So it wasn't getting tracked that it was done, but it was getting done. We need to get airside things on airside that needed fixes. We needed to get those in as Maximo work orders, which is our topic. Finally, the guy gets to the actual recipe. It's like I look up a recipe for how to boil an egg, and I got to go through pages and pages of the history of eggs and how their family loves eggs on Sundays and stuff like that. So now we're finally going to get to it. We needed it to work when they're in their trucks and when they're away from Wi-Fi. Our airfield is not covered in Wi-Fi. You would only have Wi-Fi connection if you were snuggled up against a building. So that was a requirement. Work orders out of the box, as most of you will know, have got a lot of tabs and a lot of fields. So that is kind of daunting, and it's just didn't lend itself to what we needed. So we had to create a simplified view of the work orders for these people. They have smaller screens to work on, so it had to work on a tough book sized screen, which is pretty small. And then we wanted to use automation so that they could do less work, and we would do as much as possible behind the scenes. This is a screen of the new airside work order page, but I'm going to take a chance here with the live demo. Hopefully, I've switched to the work order screen. Craig, I don't know if you can just pipe in that you're seeing.
Yeah, looks great. Looks great.
Okay, thanks. So this is the simplified view. So there's an airside work order tab, and so this is what they see. I've zoomed in the screen a little bit. We don't really go this much sort of Fisher Price approach, but so there's two things that we need to have from people. The first area up here is what is the work that needs to get done, and then this bottom area is where does the work need to get done. So we created this two-tiered definition for what the type of work is. It's got a pick list, so they don't have to type anything. So we have these 16 types of work. And so let's just say, grass cutting. So now the second tier is going to give us the options within grass cutting. We've got two choices. There's regular fields. We've got like each little patch has got a number on it. So there's those. And then there's NAV Canada equipment. And we just keep that as a special designation. So let's say there's some grass near the NAV Canada equipment. So that's what needs to be done. And then down here in the location, some of these can automatically be filled in based on what type of work was picked. So it's in the infield. We already know that, and the locations are the same idea. There's a top level. So these are the top level ones: runway, taxiway, aprons, infield, etc. And when you pick one of those, then you get choices for the second level, and so on. And so these just were automatically filled in, because in some cases, by defining the work type, then it predetermines this. And then the last level, the third level here for this kind of location is just a list of the different Nav Canada equipment sites. So we could say, localizer 13. And then we have this additional details box where you can type anything you want or nothing, right? And then you just submit the work order. So you submit the work order, you get a little okay message here in case you touched it by mistake. So it's like, are you sure? And you say yes, and that's done. That work order is submitted. The lead field is automatically assigned based on the type of work. And so our other program from previous CanMUG demos on the iPad work orders, Brian will now see this show up on his iPad as a new work order. Now, Brian's one of our supervisors out there, so he'll probably assign it to one of his crew. But that's it from a reporter point of view. The other thing here, the description of the work order is automatically built based on the type of work and where the work is. So we're getting very consistent work order descriptions based on that. And then I'm just gonna click new because there's this other side, which is where a lot of the automation comes in. There's this field here just below the work types. It says, does this work order require an SMS record? So that is our safety system, our safety records. So the grass cutting one, I didn't tick the box because grass cutting, it would be a rare situation where that would need a safety record. But if we go to a different type of work order, say I go to pavement, and then let's say there's a pavement repair that's required, okay? Now, based on this work type, this box has automatically been ticked, and I can't untick it. So we've got a default, we have this big table that has all this cross-reference information. So pavement repairs must be recorded as a safety record as well as the work order itself. So then we come to the locations, we say, well, where is this? So we'll go full drill down on this. Well, it's on a taxiway. Okay, well, which area of the taxiways? Okay, well, it's in zone 4 and it's on taxiway Mike, which is one of our really big taxiways. And then these are all the parts of the taxiway. So let's say it's at the intersection with taxiway Victor, okay? Now, you're probably gonna wanna have some more details. So say, small hole on south edge. So this will help them find it, painted. So the guys have got a spray paint can and they do a big fluorescent circle around anything that they find. This is on the very edge, so it's not gonna cause a problem, but it needs to get fixed. I didn't talk about it before. There is this add photo button over here, so they would probably take a picture of it. So now down here, this section has appeared. It wasn't there before, but because it's a safety record, we have to find out, well, what is the risk of this situation that you're reporting? So we have two options for the reporter. The bottom one is just a free text field. You can type in whatever you want. And the top one is a pick list of predefined ones. So we can go down here, we say pavement issues. Well, it could cause aircraft damage. This one's on the side, so probably not. But so now the other one's not mandatory. You can do one or the other or both. I can still type something in if I want. And then the other new part, because it's a safety record, is we have to know, well, what's the risk? So we've got two, I'll just scroll down here. We've got probably a fairly typical 5x5 table of risks. The ones are green and they're, not a big risk. And of course, 5 is, terrible. So, we can just pick our numbers here. So we'll say, well, it's a minor severity and it's not likely. So then that makes this a green risk overall, right? So Now that is done, then you submit the record, submit the work order, which is say yes. And what that does, because this is the safety record, if we go to the related records, here is our safety record that's been created. So the process has created a safety record. It's populated all the fields in the safety record. Any fields that are relevant from the work order have been copied into the safety record. Plus, there's a bunch of defaults that we can preset. So there aren't any fields on the safety record that the person has to go and fill in now. They're all defaulted. And then the safety record is workflowed. It's a very long workflow for safety records, and this kicks that off. In that same cross-reference table, we have the ability to list a predetermined accountable manager for each type of work. So if this type of work has a predefined accountable manager, then that person will automatically be assigned to the safety record, and it will be workflowed directly to them. If we don't have an accountable manager already known for it, then it just goes to the safety office, and then they would pick somebody like they would for any safety record. So that's, it says problem. We cloned the problem app and then completely made it our own. So that's why it's got a problem class and it's got a PRB record number. So that's a lot of the automation part that we did there on the safety records part. I think it's pretty amazing. I said to our site director in a moment of perhaps unwise candor, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this worked. And so it does work. It's pretty amazing how much can be done. So now back to the PowerPoint. So this is the screen of that, which it's easier to go through live than on a PowerPoint. So this is the second half when the box is ticked. When the box isn't predetermined, it is an option. The reporter could declare anything needs a safety record. So the grass cutting one, I could have ticked that box if I wanted, and then it would have popped up these extra questions and made a safety record. How did we do this stuff? So we used a lot of parts, a lot of the features within Maximo. Big part, the biggest bits, automation scripts, app designer, escalations, signature options, workflows. Those are the big ones, but everything's been used. Probably every part that we would normally use was part of it. So just go through some of the main areas. So in Application Designer, we created a new tab, which I showed you, the Airside Work Order tab. That tab is Airside people only see that tab. They don't see the normal work order tab or some of the other normal work order tabs like plans and actuals, because it's not part of their world. Similarly, we actually have a baggage only tab also in the work order app, and the baggage people only see that tab. So very specialized for each group. And then regular work order people still see the regular stuff, and they don't see the baggage one, and they don't see this Airside one. The buttons, so I had there's a button there for submit work order and add photo. We're using buttons, and we did this in the NOTAM app as well. We're using our own buttons instead of having people go up to the toolbar, click on change status, pick, approved from a list of many statuses, and then they have to know that kind of stuff. So we just use our buttons, and then all that same stuff happens in the background. What we haven't done yet is get rid of most of those toolbar buttons. So I need to do that because people see, oh, I wonder what this does, right? So we'll have to get rid of that. And then there's a lot of signature options and conditional expressions, when to show this, when not to show it, all that kind of stuff, which I think is pretty routine for app designer stuff. Automation scripts, populating fields, when to hide fields, when to show fields. There's automation scripts that run when you push one of our buttons that are on the screen. And there's a lot of automation behind creating and populating those safety records. Escalations, getting stuff in and out of workflow, we're doing through an escalation. So if there's a newly created safety record, then there's an escalation that will run around and go, oh, look, there's a new one. It's not in workflow yet, so let me put it into workflow. We did try and do that from the automation script itself, but this seems very reliable, so we're doing it this way. So the escalation runs, I think it's every couple of minutes. So the worst case is a 2-minute delay, but it's not, it would have to be done instantly anyway. And then kind of the opposite of that, when there's a safety record, if it's a green, so that one I created was a green one, so it's not a high risk. So if there's a green one, when the work order that was driving the safety record, when that work order is closed, if the safety record is a green risk, then it'll close that that safety record as well. So for green ones, they get created automatically, put into workflow automatically, and they can get pulled out of workflow and closed automatically. I say only for the green ones. And then workflows, lots of workflows for updating records and allowing the workflow to jump into the middle of the giant safety record workflow if we already have a known accountable manager. And there's workflows behind each of those action buttons. So lastly, start centers. We created a specialized start center for the airside people. It's got a fair number of things on it, but they're all things that they need to be aware of. And there's nothing on there that they don't need to be aware of. Start centers go, it's the same as most. It's just that it's got only their own content in it. We had to create a couple of new apps just for editing the various cross-reference tables. No real new apps for the users to see. And then we made updates to our iPad mobile work orders program because the new work orders for airside are so simple to create. We gave them the ability from the iPad so they can create work orders from the field. So if they're out there and they see something, they can just create the work order for it, probably complete it because they're probably going to deal with it. Our traditional work orders, there's too much, it's too complicated for someone to create a work order in the field, so we didn't used to have that. But for this group, they have that on the iPads. And that's enough of me rambling on. If there's any questions, then hopefully Craig can let me know.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the questions here. I'm just going to give it a minute. So if anyone wants to pop in a question for Steve, I can address those. I haven't seen one come in here yet, Steve, but excellent presentation. Oh, here's a couple coming in now. Oh, I see them now.
There you go.
It says, what are you using for mobile? From Marcherie Williamson.
Oh, we're using EveryPlace. We started about 2.5 years ago using EveryPlace on the iPads for our facility maintenance, basically our building maintenance people. It connects to Wi-Fi if Wi-Fi is available, because EveryPlace has to be connected. It doesn't work disconnected. So it connects to our Wi-Fi if Wi-Fi is available, which is true for most of the building. And the iPads have got a SIM card in them, so it switches to cell coverage through VPN if the Wi-Fi is not available.
Excellent. And then maybe this leads into that same question. Marcherie asked that as well. What are you using? No, I'm sorry. It was Lorene. How do you solve the no Wi-Fi issue?
Right. So our actual IT tech people who know these things found a way to make it switch automatically. So the users don't have to do anything. If they go to use it and they're out of Wi-Fi, then there's about 3 seconds where they get a spinning blue circle, and then the VPN signal pops up in the top left corner, and then they just carry on. So they don't have to do any extra logins or anything. So we're using that same thing in the tough books that the people will use in the trucks for this airside work.
Okay. And then it's another question, how much time did it take to develop this functionality?
That's probably hard to say. Net time, I don't know, maybe like if you were dedicated to it and just focused on it, probably a couple of months. But this has been spread out over quite a while. You know, operations by its definition has to work with real life day of situations, and so these kind of things aren't priority compared to keeping the airport running. So sometimes real life takes over, and we don't get all the attention that we would like from them. But it's been really good working. It's just we have to accept that real life gets in the way, so that's made it go longer in like real time.
A couple more here, Steve. One is, on every work order, is there a place to capture time it took to complete the job? Are you guys tracking labor hours?
Yes. I didn't. So in the iPad program, which I wasn't demoing today, the crew, before they can complete the work order on the iPad, they need to enter some hours. So yeah, they're tracking their time.
What about telematics? There's a question here from Stephen Ashford asking if you've integrated to telematics for your rolling stock, like your mobile equipment.
I'll have to admit I don't know what telematics is. So.
Yeah, I think it's like a check engine light comes on, or any of that kind of run hours or kilometers. I think you can sometimes connect to some of that stuff. That's the technology I think those use. But you answered the question. That's good.
Yeah.
Any app? One other question here from Lauren. Is there, it says, greetings, well done. Is there any app issues or instability when moving between Wi-Fi to the cell data?
I haven't seen it, but I'm not out there. We haven't, as I said, the iPad people have been using this for over 2 years. So I haven't heard of issues. I know there's a delay while it sorts itself out.
Perfect. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a couple more here, Steve, but what I'm going to do, just given our timing, I'm going to package these up. I'll send them to you, and you can feel free to answer those folks directly, because I do have people's contact information and the person who asked the question. Okay. So thank you very much, Steve, for your presentation. This was excellent.